Hi, Shanna Forrestall here with Not Just Small Talk. My guest today is Jason Buch. Jason and I have been friends for quite a few years, and our last project that we worked on together just got loaded onto Amazon Prime, and it's available now for you to watch it. It's called Arsenal. You're going to learn more about that, but you're also going to learn more about Jason. He's a screenwriter and a director. He has a love of merging technology and narrative, which I think you're going to find interesting. So get ready. My guest today, Jason Buch, screenwriter, director, producer, a very talented storyteller who brings technology to the table when it comes to telling stories. I think you're going to dig this. I'll be right back with Jason Buch. Hi, Shanna Forrestall here with Not Just Small Talk, and my guest today is Jason Buch, and we're going to be talking about the structure of storytelling. I'm so excited to be meeting with Jason today. We worked together fairly recently on a project called Arsenal that just got released on Amazon Prime, and Jason was the writer and director and everything. The editor. What else? Did you edit it as well?
I did edit it, yeah, I did.
Yeah, so he was the mastermind behind that series, and you can watch that right now on Amazon Prime. So if you haven't seen it, be sure you check it out. It's called Arsenal. But I really admire this guy because he knows how to tell story. He understands story and loves story. And so I wanted to talk to him about that a little bit today. So let's go back. When you were a little boy, is that when you started liking story? How did you get caught up in this whole thing of storytelling and film?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always, like a lot of people that grew up in the 80s and 90s, I watched a lot of television, I watched a lot of film, and just sort of fell in love with the medium and fell in love with that form of telling a story.
Right.
I think that, stories are something that we've connected with throughout history, and in particular, it was a big part of my childhood. And, just going to the cinema and watching TV.
So how did you get involved in making movies? Before the cell phones were big, how were you making movies?
So I actually started out in a very different career. I started out as a software developer, and I did that for several years, and then wanted something that would allow me to be a little bit more creative. Mm-hmm. And so I came back and went to grad school for screenwriting. And a lot of my work since then has been an effort to sort of merge the two, and merge sort of technology and storytelling.
Right.
But that led me into the film industry. I worked production for a long time and have been working as a writer for a long time. So it's something that I enjoy very much.
So let's talk about story. I just finished reading recently a book called The Golden Thread that I really enjoyed about what makes a story matter to people.
Right.
And the simplicity of that. So every story has different twists and turns, and but there's key elements that make a story work. What do you believe those are?
Well, I think that it really comes down to character, and it's not even, I mean, you hear people talk about likable characters, but it's not even that. It's really just a character that you connect with, right? They can be a terrible person, but if you connect with their story and become invested in it, then you want to see it through to the end, and you want to see what happens. And a lot of that revolves around the plot being a result of the decisions that the characters make. I think too often we have, especially in film, especially in big budget action film, plot revolving around these sort of world-changing events that the characters have no control over.
Right.
And it's really easy to become disconnected from the story in that way. And so, when I think about projects that I'm going to work on, or when I talk to others about screenwriting, I talk to them about having the key moments revolve around decisions that the characters made, right? Even if the character isn't in a position to have a big influence on things, their decision is still important in their story and how they're involved in the larger story, right? And so I think that that's a big part of it, is that seeing that the characters have agency within the film and that the decisions that they make affect the storyline helps us feel more. Yeah, it helps us feel more connected to them and invested in their story.
That makes sense. Like when you watch the horror film, you're like, don't go in the room! And they go in the room.
Right.
It's a bad decision.
Right.
But the movie wouldn't continue if they didn't go in the room.
Right.
No, but when we care, and when the character can make a choice, then sometimes we're like cheering for them or trying to stop them, or like, right? We get emotionally invested in what's happening, and we're like, we know, like if it's just a tsunami comes, we're like, run, but they can do nothing about that.
Right, and you understand that the events that follow are a result of that action that they took, and that it might have been a different situation with a different character. And that's, a good thing when we talk about telling stories.
So what is it for you? Because I think everybody has things that they love about storytelling. I love authentic storytelling. I love stories that I relate to, that encourage me to change or see things about myself that I need to work on. What is it about stories that really appeal to you personally?
Well, I think it's that human connection, that connection to the emotion that's going on. Mm-hmm. I think that, whether that's something serious like a drama or something like Arsenic that's dealing with some heavy topics, or whether it's a comedy, it's a chance to experience emotions in a safe way, and to go on that ride of the story with the characters. Right. And maybe take that back and relate it to your own life, or just escape from your own life for a little while and see somebody else. And I'm also a big fan of world building. I'm a big fan of sort of genre literature and genre film and fantasy and science fiction and that kind of thing. And I think that too is a way to sort of experience things outside of the norm, outside of what we're used to. Right. Or see things in a new way. And help us see the what ifs, or just, or even see ourselves more clearly. I like movies that put human characteristics on other things, and then it's like really ridiculous, and like, wait, but we do that, you know what I mean? So we put them on animals or something, and you're like, oh, yeah, humans are strange people. So let's go back to Arsenal for a minute. So for people who may not be so familiar with the process, when you're a writer like you are, how does an idea come to you, and then how do you develop it? Like, do you have a process, or is it different every time? I think people are intrigued by the process of art. So for people that aren't familiar, what is your process? Sure. It is different every time, but a lot of times it will come from something just sort of sparking a what if, something so just sort of sticking in my mind and being something that I come back and think about. With Arsenault, it was a couple of different things. It was, partly wanting to tell something more dramatic, wanting to tell something that touched on a lot of the issues that New Orleans was facing, and a lot of the issues that society as a whole has been dealing with. But a lot of it came from settling on the format of the show. The show is very streamlined. It's interviews taking place in a police detective interview room. So it's a very contained set, very contained situation, and that poses a lot of challenges in storytelling, right? And so a lot of the storyline and the characters that would be involved and what information could be included came out of settling on that format, that we would only see things that were either an interview that the detective was conducting, or evidence that he could have viewed. That we weren't going to other scenes outside of that to follow the characters, or and that's a challenge. And when you're working on, independent type work or low budget work, you have to keep the budget down, and one of the ways to do that is to contain things, right, set wise, and to limit the number of people or whatever that's in there. So sometimes when you're telling independent stories, you're looking at all of those factors and going, what stories, interesting stories, can we tell that are small and contained? They're big stories, but they're contained in space or time or people. And you guys did a great job with that with Arsenal. It's one of the things I loved about the script. Being someone who's produced, I know how to look at things and know where it's going to cost, what it's going to cost, and how smart is it to be able to tone that down. And you guys did a great job of telling a very compelling story, and the performances helped. I mean, I thought the Louisiana Talent did an amazing job on that series. Absolutely. I mean, they showed up. Everybody was just solid and beautifully executed performances, I thought, to really keep the story alive. It felt very present. Which was, I think, what you were going for. Like, we were here in this space, and we were feeling the emotion of each of these characters in and out of the same space. And I thought that was really interesting. It was like this array of emotions and things flowing through one small area. And you did a good job of not letting that be boring. It is captivating. It's really captivating. Well, thank you. I mean, a lot of that credit goes to the actors as well. I think everybody turned in a fantastic performance, from Lance to you to Billy Slaughter and everybody else. It really was... exciting for me to get to work with everybody. A lot of actors that I had crossed paths with and not had a chance to work with directly in that capacity. And the format helped with that too, where we were able to sort of set up the interview room, know that it was there whenever actors had availability, and return to it as needed to get the people that we wanted in the series to be able to participate.
Right. And you hit on some pretty hard topics in this. You know, we look, and I don't want to run anything, so I'm not going to go too deep into it, but you hit on some really relevant, difficult topics to talk about that need to be talked about. Some that affect just, New Orleans or kind of localized and regionalized, but also national issues right now. So if you haven't seen the series, check it out, because it is compelling. It's for a low budget project. It's beautifully shot. It's beautifully written, acted and directed and cut. It's lovely.
Thank you.
But yeah, I hope you guys tell more stories. I really enjoyed working with you guys, and I just think that you have, you have an empathy about you and a worldview that I think needs to be put out there. I like the way you tell stories, and I hope you tell a lot more of them. And I hope that New Orleans is a place that we can do that, because New Orleans is such a rich, colorful city.
And there are a lot of stories to tell, and it's one of the exciting things about the level of production that can be put out now on a low budget is just amazing, and a lot of people are getting opportunities that they wouldn't have had before.
Right.
And I'm excited to see the work that others are doing and the stories that they're able to tell now that things are a little bit more accessible.
And that's the great thing about technology now, and then also with all of these, different outlets opening up for digital content, there are so many stories that are coming out. And finally, we're also starting to hear different voices, which is something I'm very appreciative of. It's, seeing different faces and hearing different stories. It's important that we hear that and that we learn each other's stories and learn from them.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
And don't forget to check it out, guys. Our Snow, it's on Amazon Prime right now, and you can check it out. It is so good. Thank you, Jason. Keep telling stories. We need them.
Thanks.
Shanna Forrestall with Not Just Small Talk, and my guest, Jason Buch.